Hello, everybody. I'm Julius. I will be covering structural violence. So, before I begin, I do want to give praise to the person that coined the term, Johan Galtung, who was a Norwegian sociologist, mathematician, and political scientist, widely recognized as the principal founder of the academic discipline of peace and conflict studies. His work transformed the field by moving beyond a narrow focus on warfare to analyze the broader systemic causes of suffering and inequality. So he framed violence in three ways. When you think of violence, you think of physical harm, sometimes psychological harm, that's inflicted by a specific actor against a victim. It involves a clear subject or a perpetrator and the object, the victim. Whereas structural violence is more invisible, it's harder to see. It's harm that results from unequal power relations and is built into the social, political, and economic structures or institutions of a society. There is no single perpetrator, unlike direct violence, and the harm is often indirect and systemic. Then, lastly, you have cultural violence, which is any aspect of a culture that includes religion, ideology, language, art, and science that can be used to justify, rationalize, or make direct structural violence appear, quote, natural or right or at least acceptable. And these concepts are not independent, they're in fact very interdependent and they reinforce one another. An example of this is during the murder of George Floyd, a direct violence that led to BLM protests or Black Lives Matter protests across the world. It reinforced cultural prejudice against the targeted group. There are many examples of structural violence. All you have to do is Google, structural harm, and you'll find many examples of policies that have been enacted that are rooted in racism, colonialism, sexism, homophobia, etc. There are four categories that I want to mention. There's economic and housing disparity, health and environment, education opportunity, and legal political exclusion. So, really looking at ways that resources are allocated. One example that I want to use at work as a medical social worker is criminalizing poverty. We see a lot of patients that come in who have unstable housing or houseless, and there's bench warrants for their arrest simply because they slept outside overnight, and now they have this criminal history simply because they have unmet social needs. How this, I think, ties back to the reading. We know how important universal healthcare is in terms of healthcare access and making sure that marginalized populations have access to healthcare. Um, it's important that universal healthcare is realized, even if it's imperfect, even if it may not be as effective. It's still one way that we can improve population health and global health in general, and it really does target structural determinants of health and addresses some of the upper stream issues that we see sort of downstream. And I want to end with again um, some of the examples of structural violence are colonialism, sexism, racism, poverty that limit healthcare access, clean water, nutrition, and education for the most vulnerable and marginalized communities. And an example, more recent example, is COVID-19, where we saw sort of where resources were allocated. I wish I could speak more to structural violence, but this will be it for me. Um, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the um, chat. It's not a chat; it's a forum. But these are my references. Thank you. Mahalo.